One thing which defenders of Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza have referred to a great deal is where were all these peace campaigners when other atrocities and other conflicts were going on around the world? And first of all, everybody at some point in their life, reaches an age where they think they understand what's going on in the world. They start to read, if this is the moment when you suddenly looked around and went, do you know what? I think I'm in favour of peace. I'm okay with that. Welcome. Thank you for joining the movement. I'm delighted to have you here. Secondly, I don't subscribe to the notion that there's an acceptable number of innocent children to be killed, but it is simply a fact that the rate at which innocent Palestinians and Palestinian children are being butchered at this time is way, way, way higher than the equivalent number has been in other conflicts for a very, very, very long time. This situation is worse than anything we've seen for a long time. There is a reason to jump up and get angry about this one, even if previous things haven't captured your attention in the same way. But thirdly, I hope you understand that I'm somebody who's been campaigning against violence for a very, very long time in all sorts of situations around the world. So I hope you'll have to agree that I have every right to continue doing so. One of the things I've talked about a lot over the years is the ongoing Saudi attacks on the Yemen. And one of the reasons why I've talked about it so much is that even to call it Saudi Arabian attacks on the Yemen is misleading, because the UK sends them weapons, sells them weapons. The UK sells them aircraft that they can use to drop those weapons. We sell them IT systems to support that setup. We send personnel over from British defence companies, usually British personnel, many of them trained in the British military, who then go and train Saudi Arabian soldiers on the ground, install systems, set things up, run logistics, load weapons onto planes. In a lot of cases, the only part of the whole process of slaughtering people in Yemen that isn't done by a British person is that last millisecond when somebody pushes the launch button. And to be honest, you could get a nodding car toy to do that for you. It's always been Britain that has been the driving force behind that. It's been said that if Britain pulled fully out of Saudi Arabia and got everybody to come back, the bombing in Yemen would stop within a fortnight. That is the extent of British involvement. But rather than pulling British people out and stopping those horrific attacks, Rishi Sunak is now directly using the British military to attack Yemeni Houthi rebels in the Red Sea. And he's done this without consulting Parliament and without consulting the United Nations. So he has no authority on which to do it. And he wasn't even elected in the first place. What? The defence of this, for starters, I saw Tom Tugendhat, the Tory MP, on Twitter saying, well, I see you all side with the Houthis now. Look at their history, and started to list off this sort of magical whataboutery list of bad things that the Houthis in Yemen have done and have supported. And it's like, that's a bit weird coming from a Tory, isn't it? First of all, I don't think anybody was saying we're on one side or the other. I'm not on one side or the other. I'm on the side of peace, and I think we should bring about peace. Secondly, if we're going to pick sides, I'm hardly going to be on the Tory side. Look at the hundreds of thousands of people that were killed by the Tories through their austerity programme, through mismanagement of the pandemic, through their ongoing refusal to deal with climate breakdown and all that kind of stuff. Every day I open the newspaper and they've done something else that's awful. At the moment, it's 5 years since the Windrush scandal, and they promised to compensate people. And only about 1 in 5 victims of the Windrush scandal have been compensated. That's how well the Tories are doing. Why would you be on their side? I'm not on any side. I'm on the side of peace. And the best way to bring about peace is, firstly, to stop dropping bombs. Because as soon as you stop dropping bombs, the likelihood that someone will agree to negotiations goes up. The likelihood that people who've lost a family member will decide themselves to join a terror group or a rebel group or to fight back in one way or another goes down. As soon as you stop dropping bombs, the people who would have been killed by those bombs don't die. And if your goal is for people not to die, then that has to be step one. And step two has to be looking for peaceful negotiations and ways to resolve the situation. And that is obviously what we should be doing next. Now, I do understand that when there is a situation of international conflict, it is really, really difficult to get fair and accurate information about what is going on the ground. Because unsurprisingly, the history of war is the history of propaganda. It is just standard that the worst aggressors turn round to the media and try to present themselves as the victims of the situation and try to find ever more complicated ways to justify the horrific things that they're doing. But one thing I suppose it is only reasonable to say we can rely on is to ask what the aggressors are saying. Because amazingly, the perpetrators of these horrific actions are often openly saying what they're doing. There are innumerable incidents in recent weeks of members of the Israeli authorities saying they're just trying to clear areas, saying they're going to take land, saying that they don't care how many civilians are killed, that they don't care how many innocent children die, that they're happy to wipe out whole communities. We're seeing footage of Israeli flags being erected in bombed out elementary schools, this kind of frightening stuff. And let's look at what Rishi Sunak is saying about why he is acting in the way that he is in the Red Sea. He says that he is concerned that containers and tankers are having to take a 5,000-mile detour around the Cape of Good Hope, and that this could push up prices and reduce consumers' access to goods. So the fact is that we cannot deny, because the aggressors themselves are saying it, that what is going on around the world is not intended to bring about peace. It is acts of aggression deliberately intended, in the aggressor's own words, to steal land, kill people and protect their own financial interests. And it's about time everybody got on board with fighting back against that. See you next week. Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me, and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.